Not for now, I guess.
Okay.
Let's see what the meeting is about. Okay.
All right. Okay. Okay. Um, here it is. Okay. So here we go. Now I'm going to share my screen with you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
Okay. Let's start right here. Well, I hope that other students come along so we can um, share a moment. But if they don't, then they have the recording so they can guide themselves through it. Please let me know if the slide changes. So we are working now on step 4, analysis of content, and it is about unit 3 of our syllabus. So what is our main purpose here? Our main purpose with this particular task is to to establish a didactic framework for the development of effective learning environments for autonomous language learning. Do remember that this activity represents an intermediate evaluation and is Unit 3 at a maximum score of 120 points. So with that said, I want to begin by talking a little bit about the activity itself. The activity is divided into different steps. There is one part that is individual and the other one is collaborative. So I want to say that this section provides the high level objective, and also we will have this analytical task, which it will be the focus on this unit 3. So the key learning objective is, like I said, to set a robust didactic framework for the development of effective learning environments on autonomous language. And now the timeline, you know that we are going to open this task on November 2nd, due on the 24th. There is one single document, which is a collaborative document. We need to keep the APA standards. And like I said, the total value will be, I'm sorry, it's 130, not 120. I think it's, yeah, let me check. Yeah, sorry, 120, yeah. So now we are going to focus here on the first task. The first task will give you 25 points. And this task focuses on translating a theory into the practice. And we are going to design didactic strategies for effective learning in these specific environments. When we talk about learning environments here, we are going to think about what makes a good learning environment, also characteristics of a highly effective learning environment. So the idea is that you select the 5 factors from the readings and generate a 10 didactic strategy, 2 per factor. Describe how the teacher will display or implement them. And the idea is that you explicitly link the improving language skills and the fostering of autonomous learning. So we are going to talk about communicative competence, keeping in mind, though, that there needs to be self-monitoring and goal setting. So that is important that we remember, because sometimes we think, oh, maybe we will focus on communicative competence, but we leave aside the fostering of the autonomous skills part. So that is important that we remember that part of the task. Also, our goal here with this collaborative side is to synthesize all the concepts to justify a comprehensive and ideal autonomous learning environment. So in this specific task, we are going to master all these specific concepts that we have been working on. And I urge you to, of course, read, work with the references, and come to final focus where you can, learn to give an approach to this question that I'm posting right here. What is the ideal learning environment for language learning and autonomy development? So when we think of ideal learning environment is when we need to focus on those factors that we are going to find in the references that we are to read. Now, what do we need? We need to do the three readings that are posted there for the unit 3, talk about typologies and conditions and principles, and we would like to see a comprehensive conceptual proposal. This proposal needs to be at a master's level. It needs to incorporate all the concepts that we've been working out throughout the course. Do remember that this is the last task for the intermediate section, and then we just have the final one. So there are 3 different roles that we need to explicitly define and justify within the activity itself. First one is the teacher, which could be the mediator, the facilitator, the model of autonomy. And we also have the learner, co-constructor, self-regulator, and the institution. How does it align? How does it help or aid the process of creating an ideal learning environment? So this also will give us exposure to a problem. So you do need to go back and think of applying those theories to solve this practical pedagogical problem, which is the lack of target language exposure. How do we expose the students more so that they have an effective time of language exposure and this communicative competence that we need to improve. Another thing that we are going to do is revisit problem 3 from step 1. And when we do that, we are going to think about accessing and processing the target language in the immediate physical environments. When we talk about learning environments, we need to keep in mind that they could be physical or they could be online, as we do here in these spaces. Our focus here, though, is to go to be, theory backed, to be able to implement and overcome this exposure gap and boost communicative skills. How do we do that? How do we overcome this exposure gap and boost communicative skills? So there are some examples like scaffolding, interaction, digital tools for immersion, creating language-rich physical spaces. Then all of these ideas will help us to create this ideal learning environment. So when we talk about the theoretical part, I urge you that you answer strictly supported from the references, given that personal ideas without theoretical backing will not be considered. So I urge you to read the references, really come in tune with them, and then make sure that whatever proposals that you make or offer or show us, they are theory-based, that they have theory-based elements that are backing up your ideas or your proposals. So I invite you to make sure we do this. Exposure to the problem, each one of us has, different problems depending on where we work, depending on how we do our teaching and learning experience. All of these experiences that we have lived through our teaching lives, because I do recognize you all as, of course, teachers, and we all have had many different experiences. Therefore, these experiences will help us to focus a little bit more and try to think and remember when those moments of exposure gap happened. What would you have done if you could have had the possibility to make changes? So what would you have done to boost communicative skills? In that moment, once you set yourself upon the problem that you have had or have at this moment, you will be able to get rich information to take the ideal steps towards an ideal environment. So I urge you to work together. This is, of course, a collaborative task. I've we've talked about it because sometimes some students don't participate uh, during the proper time. I do understand that we are all busy, we all work, have different activities and everything else, but we need to focus on the fact that we are working on this master's program, and working collaboratively will help us not only with our learning process, but also we will learn from teachers that are already out there working. And collaboration will give us the opportunity to exchange experiences so we can learn from each other. So this individual task challenge you critically analyze and contextualize existing research on learning environment. So I will invite you to read them. Also, going to the blog, there are very interesting topics there that you can read. They're not hard, heavy reads, so I invite you to do them. And try to keep to your eyes on the essentials, okay? Focus on these foreign language learning environment. We in Colombia don't have it as a second language in most of our schools. There are a few schools where they may instill a second language. However, mostly it is foreign language. So try to also see it through the eyes of the pre-service EFL teacher. There are many pre-service EFL teachers out there, and see how maybe we've seen it, sorry, throughout our experiences. So there is some critical analysis that needs to be done. So we need to analyze the results obtained. Remember that we've been working on steps towards this task. So we need to contextualize our findings, try to bring this reality to your case in particular so that it can be done. I have this video I'd like you to see. Please let me know, Adriana, if you can hear it. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Just a moment. Let me go here. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to change it to the video because it wouldn't let me. So hang on. Let's share from here. I'm going to share the entire screen. There it is. Okay. Let me know, Adriana, if you can hear it. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay. Hang on. And now?
In which we find ourselves in a variety of ways that affect our learning.
And now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So take a look at the video. Try and see how can we apply this to our realities.
We respond to the environment in which we find ourselves in a variety of ways that affect our learning. When children are in a calm, peaceful environment with aspects of nature around them, it builds brain architecture and enables them to learn more. We are barraged with information and emotion all of the time, and our brain is trying to sort things out and figure out how to put all of that in place. And in order to be able to learn, we need a certain amount of routine and consistency and calm so that our brain can focus on what's important and not have to focus on everything that is new and engaging all at the same time.
The environment has a large impact on student learning. We want school to be a safe, welcoming place where kids want to come here every day. They could be coming in the morning with lots of different emotions.
We're so glad that you're here this morning.
That we want to help mitigate so that they feel safe and secure at school.
Good morning, Jolene. We're glad you're here. Let me tell you what's happening this morning. We have pancakes for breakfast and pears.
It's very important that school be a reliable, consistent, routine place where you know what to count on, where things are somewhat predictable. Not so much that they become boring, but so much that they give you that calm feeling that I know what it's about, I know how to participate, and that actually opens up the opportunity for more learning.
So some of the ways that we do that are creating a calm environment where breakfast is ready for them, the teacher is at the door with a greeting, a hug, I missed you, I'm so happy you're here. We also include a lot of natural elements in our classrooms. We have lots of plants, which keeps the air purified. We use essential oils to help students have calm, relaxed bodies. People want to come into a room that smells great. And so we turn that on in the morning before they get here, and that's part of creating that welcoming environment.
Meeting students' needs for like releasing physical energy is important. Making sure that kids' bodies feel good is a really important step to making sure their brains are in a good place for learning. Water is available to all of our students all the time. They all get breakfast, they all get lunch, they're going to movement class, they're having time outside in the backyard, doing a lot of gross motor play so that their bodies are getting what they need.
We also know now that the environment matters greatly to the evolution of individual human beings. And we can create environments that are productive, that have lots of opportunities for exploration and learning, because that's how human beings grow their brains as well as grow their knowledge.
We want them to be engaged and to love it and not want to go home. So we have incredible opportunities and provocations at centers for them to have agency and use their hands, create, iterate on their creations, fail and keep trying. And part of that helps keep them both engaged. And at the end of the day, man, school is really fun. I can't wait to come back tomorrow. That's the feeling that we want the students to have.
Okay. Hello, Fernando.
Hello, teacher.
How are you?
Hello,
Welcome.
Adriana. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I'm going to share my screen again. Hang on just a sec. Let me get back here. And now, here we are. So, okay. So hang on a sec. Okay, so after we watched the positive learning video, what can you tell me? What did you get from it? What do you feel about it?
Well, I guess I must say it's complete opposite environment from where I work. Um, Currently, I'm working at a public school here in my town. I work with teenagers in 10th and 11th grade, and it's a pretty big school. We have over 1,000 students in this institution. In just in high school, because we have three different elementary schools, but in high school we have over 1,000 students that are always or I will say most of the time, in very stressed environments. And I guess we sometimes fall into really traditional um, strategies during classes, and they're usually just sitting down, listening to the teacher, and just a few of us try different innovative strategies. But I guess it's not enough because most of them are used to this same behavior every day, like waking up really early and going to school most of the time without breakfast, without having properly slept, and to pay attention during 6 hours in a row with just a short break from their day. And I guess that's not appropriate for them. At the end of the day, that plays certain role and certain um, indirect relation on how they behave, I guess. I mean, of course, there are all things that impact their behavior, but that the video makes me think that we could do some stuff to help them feel more relaxed and more calm, especially taking into account that we are dealing with teenagers, and just by their definition they're dealing with a lot of changes in their lives, and things that are crazy at home, and some of them are coming from really hard realities at their houses. So as an institution, I guess we could try to do something to make them feel more comfortable. For some of them, um, they have told me directly, like school for them is escape, is the place where they sometimes can feel hurt by someone, like someone tries to pay attention to them, someone listens to them without judging. So if they feel like that with us doing the bare minimum, if we could implement these kind of strategies, it makes me reflect on how they would behave, like what kind of school I could have if I could implement these kind of strategies with my teenager students. Sorry,
Thank,
tutor,
thank
your
you.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is definitely something to think about. As I was listening to you, I was recalling the video and thinking about the, having a safe place, a place where they can be heard, exactly what you mentioned, a place where they can create, where they can, have fun, because learning cannot always be seen as a task, as something that I have to do. How can we get from what I have to do to what I want to do? And in the process, I'm still learning. So that is the big difference of how we can make this learning environment a special place. Because as you said, and you mentioned, the reality in our Colombian classrooms, in most public schools, is that the students get there, maybe they haven't properly eaten, also they may have had a lot of problems at home, and the only place where they can be safe is at school. So why can't we make it better? Just a little bit. I know that sometimes we can't make a big change in the school system per se, but maybe we can change that one little part of the world that I'm into. So if I can change that little part of the world, maybe I'm able to change that moments that they're with me. And eventually, little by little, hopefully it will get better. But when we're thinking of ideal learning environments, remember that we need to think about many important aspects. And now I'm coming on to the readings, okay? I'm coming on to the fact that there are some core elements that we need to consider when dealing with a good learning environment. And a learning environment needs to be comprehensive. When is and when we think of a learning environment, we're not talking just about a physical location. We can talk about this, what we're doing right now. This is a learning environment as well. But also, we need to talk about culture and the context that our students are in. How do we approach teaching, and how do we use materials? So, effective environments vary because what works for one person may not work appropriately for another student. So we really need to be careful on standardizing our practices. So what the invitation is to, there is some standard, of course, but if you see a slight difference in one of your students, try to find out what that difference is and how you can help him or her to develop a better learning experience. So when we talk about psychological and emotional safety, this is the foundation for a good learning environment. So we are talking about the core elements. The core elements, the first one is the psychological and emotional safety. Our students need to feel safe and they need to trust you. So when they feel both physically and emotionally safe, they will be ready to explore and more willing to learn. So this is more than just physical protection or being respected and welcome. They need to be, they need to feel that you want them to be there, that for you is important that they are there. They need to feel respected, especially now that you are talking about teenagers. Teenagers sometimes don't feel respected because they're not kids yet, they are not adults. So we adults sometimes see them as, big kids, and sometimes they have very good comments and very good things to say. So another point that we need to consider is psychological safety. So positive environment is that we have our students in a place where they can make mistakes so that they know that there is no stupid question, that there is no wrong position, that they can grow from making mistakes. We are going to learn from the error. That is one thing that we need to consider when we also want to make a good learning environment. Another thing is to be able to support culture. So we now have culturally different classrooms. We sometimes have students from different parts of Colombia in our particular case, or we may even have foreigners who may be, from Venezuela or things like that. Fernando, did you have something to say?
Teacher, I saw the last part of the video, but based upon the images I saw and what
Okay,
now you are speaking, I think I can say something. You know,
go ahead.
in my personal case, eh, I work for a public high school, and the students uh, they are undisciplined. Problems like that, like the discipline problems of everybody and in everybody in every school. But I have had some troubles with the administration because personally my classes are different. For example, once I came into the class, once upon a time, I come into the class, and one of the students is sleeping on the floor under my desk. So the desk is in the middle of the class, but I need to move the desk near to the blackboard so I can begin to speak. So I get on my knees and I say softly to the student, because it's a big one, it's a problematic one, it's an 11th one, 11th group, and he's the bullying of the classroom. And I say to him respectfully, "Excuse me, mister, may I move the desk so I can go on with the class?" He moves the head, I move the desk, and he continues sleeping under the desk. But for me, it is not problem. He's not making me noise. I can begin to teach the class. In some moment, I take some paper leaves and I say to the people, let's begin the activity. And I deliver the papers. And in that moment, the students stand up and he asks me, he requires me for the paper, and he develops the task, the first to develop the task, something like that. So sometimes my classes are full of noise. I am a noisy one, and my students are noisy. So sometimes the coordinator, when they go to my class, when she goes to my class, they don't like it. They don't like neither her, neither she, neither the psychologist, many people. And because I like to listen music and my students like to study listening music, and we are developing the activities, and they are listening reggaeton, they are listening rock, they are listening guaracha. So something like that. I am very relaxed with my students.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Yeah, definitely being relaxed with them, with teenagers, will help you into giving them more space for them to actually make a better progress in the class. As long as they feel safe and everything has a pedagogical purpose, there will be better results. So when we talk about supporting culture, we need to be able to encourage them so that they feel at ease. Sometimes our students don't feel at ease when they are in the classroom because they may feel, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, of course, I am
Okay.
listening.
Okay, so sometimes the students may feel like their thoughts are not being heard, or they may not be supported. So the teacher also needs to, in this psychological core element, we need to also feel, we to give them encouragement, encouraging them to continue, to move on, to continue into the learning process. Also, the teacher-student relationship, hang on a second, there's some fireworks. 1 second.
Excuse. Okay.
Just a minute. There's a lot of noise here at the university. Okay, finally, the fireworks are over. So now the teacher-student relationship. This relationship needs to be built on trust, respect, and guidance. We can never lose sight of our role. Our role is essential. Our role is to be mediators. Our role is to be the guide. We cannot be friends, buddy. No, we need to be in a good teacher-student relationship based on positive communication, clarity. We also need to inspire and motivate them to continue with their tasks, to continue with their learning process. How do we do that? We need to find a way to have this student teacher relationship. The second core concept that I want to share with you today is the learner engagement and autonomy. This is the process. How does my student processes his path through the learning? So first is to have them into active learning. There is no better thing learned than those things that I can do. When I have learning experiences that are significant, that are helpful, I will encourage participation. So the one thing that is important is that we could keep it pedagogically appropriate, and we could involve some engaging methodologies such as gamification, because gamification provides the student with purpose. So they might think they're just playing, but as long as we do gamification with a pedagogical purpose, there will be, light in the students' eyes, and they will see it they won't notice that they're learning as they play. So another thing is important is co-creation and ownership. We need to incorporate students' voices. And when I say that, it's important to recall students' agency. We need to make sure that our students own their learning and they are held accountable for what they have to do and what they can do and what they are expected to do. So if you are clear and the expectations and the rules are clear, we will ensure that our students will take an active part of the process. As long as we are clear with everything that is being done, these students, our students, can get more involved. Another thing that is important is feedback and praise. Not because he did a little thing, I'm going to say, oh, wonderful. No, but every time that a student gets an achievement, we need to praise him, because some students battle in different levels. For some students, the battle is to say a few words. For some others, the battle is to just listen to a command. They basically just can't understand it, or something happens that they won't listen. So when they do, we need to have the opportunity to give them this output and tell them that they did well, to motivate them and tell them exactly how they can improve or what they have done better. So this feedback that we give them needs to be constructive. We cannot just tell them, oh, this is very good, you did well. No, we need to tell them, you did well at this specifically. So there is a specific part of that learning process that he achieved, that one thing that he conquered, needs to be considered when we are giving feedback. The feedback needs to be clear and constructive. We cannot give feedback just to tell them, you did well, good job, things like that. No, the feedback needs to be always constructive. And also, we need to have clear goals. So when we have a clear roadmap, I ensure that my student, my learner, it knows exactly where he's going, and he knows he can track his progress. If a student doesn't have a clear roadmap, he may get lost. Sometimes we have very good learning environments. If we talk now about digital or online learning environments, sometimes some of them are very good. They have excellent activities, they are interactive, they are organized and whatnot. However, when the student comes and faces it, he doesn't know how to move from one part to the next. So the recommendation is that whatever it is that you do needs to be clear. There's need to be an explanation, a roadmap to show the student exactly how he needs to move through the learning environment. Because if he doesn't know, he may not accomplish the goal, that learning goal that we have for the student in particular. And the third core is the setting, the physical and logistical factors. Sometimes we think about order. So a positive learning environment prioritizes comfort. So when we are in a classroom that we have our students face to face, then we will have to have appropriate temperature in an ideal world. I'm talking about an ideal world, not a reality, because sometimes we don't have fans and it's extremely hot, and our students are so hot that they cannot pay attention, right? And proper lighting, proper seating. Some of our students, they just have these hard wooden desks that after 20 minutes, it's impossible to sit straight on them, but nevertheless, they have to sit there. So how can I make it a little bit more comfortable? Think about maybe the smell, maybe the way that you talk to them, maybe the way they feel in the space. So try to be organized and also maximize the focus and maximize the time within the class. We need to be flexible. I know that we are in a educational system that can be very rigid. However, it is our opportunity as mediators to flexibilize it. We need to vary how our classroom looks, if it's possible. We need to adjust the desks, allow for people to choose where they sit, if it's okay for a moment, right? Also, we need to find different ways to approach learning. We cannot always use videos. We cannot always use the same strategy because our students will not learn properly. They need to, change, and shift from one activity to another one, always keeping that pedagogical line. So when we have to shift and change, it doesn't mean that I go to another topic, I lose my mind. No, I'm still going down the same track, but it may look different or it may seem different to the learner because they don't feel like they're doing the same thing over and over. When we are keeping them engaged, they will continue in the learning process. We need to minimize distractions, of course, whether if they are in the classroom, if they are outside, or if we are working on online, then we need to minimize, these distractors that we may have. Right now, we have the worst distractor ever is the phones. I'm sorry. The phones are the worst distractor because everybody has a phone. They all are on social media, adults and teenagers alike. So we need to try and keep distraction to the minimum and set a routine. The last thing that they mentioned one of the things that they mentioned on the video was that routine helps the brain to recognize learning. So if our brain recognizes that, okay, I am sitting here to learn, I have more possibilities to develop my abilities. So since we need to maximize the possibilities for the students, if we keep a routine, so if we establish a consistent routine where the student knows that the teacher will do this and then that, and then like so, and the activities vary, yes, of course, but my routine, like for example, putting the date up, saying hello in a certain way, or if I want to start my class with a song, and I always do that, they will be expecting this same type of routine so that my learner feels structured and also motivated to to learn. Did the slide change? So I can't see. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So what is an ideal learning environment for student? To sum up, we have to provide flexibility, to personalize learning if possible, incorporate technology if possible. Some of our students, most of our students have cell phones. They may not have data, but maybe they can see something that you give them, or maybe they can just, scan a QR or something. We need to establish routines. We need to make it relevant. So if a student is learning something, there needs to be a purpose. It can't be just because it's in the curriculum, just because it's part of the syllabus. It needs to be meaningful. Feedback and assessment. Feedback, remember that it needs to be constructive, and we need to give learners some control, because they need to be taken accountable for their learning process. If a student doesn't show up to class, or if he doesn't recover from missing a class or things like that, there needs to be a consequence, that he knows that if he misses class or if he doesn't do his activities, it's not a consequence in the grading. Because the grading will, of course, if a student misses class or doesn't take an exam or whatever, of course, there will be an evaluation consequence, but that's not the idea. The idea is that the student understands that there will be consequences to his learning process. When I have this student agency placed, then my students will recognize that they can't miss class, that they need to work hard, because if they don't, then they may lose opportunities when learning. So make sure that when we think of task one, we think of these didactic strategies. The articles provide specific factors: psychological safety, flexibility, active participation, rewarding progress, and suggests also strategies. Co-create rules, mix up the furniture. When we read, we will be able to recognize some of these strategies that the factors offer. On this task 2, we're going to use the 3 key dimensions of the environment: personal development, goal direction, relationships, and system maintenance. And remember that we are trying to build a strong framework, a strong didactic framework for a proper, or an ideal rather, learning environment. Okay, and with that said, I'm going to stop sharing here. Okay, thank you, Ovidio, for showing, for coming into the web. And that's all I had to share with you today. I hope that you found the information important. And these key factors that we talked about are closely related to the readings that you need to work on, okay? Do you guys have any questions? Hello?
Well, I don't know if you could give us like a more specific example on how to build that framework. I mean, you mentioned the three roles and that we need to address those three roles like teacher, student, and institution. But I am not sure about how or what elements it should have. Oh, your
Again, mic is off.
mic.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So I was when I told you about the 3 roles, those 3 roles are very important when we are going to work on this ideal learning environment. So the teacher needs to be more than just a teacher. He needs to be a mediator. He needs to facilitate. That's what I referred to. So the teacher is not going to have just that teaching image of I give you the information and that's it. The teacher needs to be a mediator. So the teacher needs to be also involved into this ideal learning environment. When I talk about the learner, he needs to be co-constructor. He needs to have self-regulation. Remember, we were talking about agency. So if I want my student to participate in decision making, I can be a mediator or a facilitator by choosing, for example, we are going to do as a warm-up, I've decided to use songs, and my songs need to be need to use a certain language or a certain level or a certain verb tense, whatever. So I choose, me as the mediator and the facilitator, I choose maybe 5 songs. And I asked the students to propose another song or other 4 songs to put into the list, so that they don't only listen to my voice, but they can also listen to their voice. And the institution, like, unfortunately, this is the hardest part. Like Fernando was mentioning, some institutions, they just don't like language classrooms because the majority of times, we are very loud teachers, and language classrooms must be loud, because a language classroom that is quiet and so well behaved, there's nothing happening there. They're not learning because there's no communicative sense of the class. So if we are teaching communicative competence, we need our students to communicate, and they are going to be loud. So it's not something easy for institutions to comprehend. And I understand, Fernando, your point in that. So I don't know if when now I clarify the roles that needs to be considered are not the roles as to making the activity per se, but those roles, which role is the teacher taking, and how I need to give responsibility to the student. Because remember that after all, this is autonomous learning. So I need to give my student the responsibility to learn something, but then come back and put it into practice so I can make sure that he actually learned it. Did I clarify your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, then. So I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop recording. And for those of you who didn't come to the web conference, I hope you watched the video because we have seen important information that will help you with not only gathering necessities for the task, but also to understand a little bit more of it. So I'm going to stop the recording. Stop recording. Thank you very much. Okay.